So this is what we're making. A pair of teardrop-shaped earrings, hammered, slightly domed. I'm going to make a set of teardrop earrings, and this is my template to start with. And it is 13 by 18, so it's 13 millimeters wide. Cool. So I'm just going to cut a strip, fine silver, 0.7 of a millimeter thick, 13.5 millimeters wide. So I'll file back to that spot. So I have my two pieces of metal, 13 by 18, and I'm going to stick them together with double-sided tape. So that I can cut them both at the same time. And I'm going to stick my piece of onyx on there using double-sided tape. So it just looks like this, and I'm just going to leave that stuck on there and saw around it. Now, it's onyx, so it's quartz, and quartz is actually harder than the file or the saw. So I can saw right next to this, and it won't hurt the onyx. So a little bit of beeswax on my saw blade. Now I'm leaving a little bit of room to the outside, but you don't have to. It won't hurt the blade or the onyx if you go right next to it. Just be sure that you hold straight down against the double-sided tape, otherwise you'll slide your material off. So go all the way around. So you can see that I've left a little bit of material all the way around. So at this point, just take your Swiss No. 2 cut flat hand file, hold the piece in your fingers, and file. And if you get to the point where you're actually touching the onyx or the quartz, the file will just slip. It won't actually cut the quartz. So we're just going to file back until we have a nice, pretty edge. Be sure you hold your file straight up and down. You don't want to lean it in, otherwise you'll have two different size teardrop pieces. Now, when you've filed all the way around, you can see whether the edges of your material match or not. And you can look at the top of your template and just make sure that the equal amount of metal is there. Now, do not take your file marks off at this time using sandpaper. If you use sandpaper, you'll destroy the finish on your onyx or your quartz, whatever color quartz you use. Take your material off at this point, so just separate it from the tape. So I just stuck my thumbnail in there. Now we'll take these two pieces of metal apart and continue. So I just stuck a knife blade in there to separate my two pieces. And then we'll peel the tape off because I want to anneal these. I'm just going to heat these until they're a dull red. Nine seconds in that case. And because we're using fine silver, it won't show red and it won't oxidize. So we're just going to quench it in water and then dry it off. And then texture it. Now at this point, before I texture these, I'm going to run it through the rolling mill, and I've set the rolling mill so that I'm going from 0.7 to 0.5. So I've already set it. So this is what I end up with. And this is what I started with. So I'm just going to use my bench block on my lap. I'm going to hallmark this before I start hammering. Lovely. Because once I get my hammered texture on there, I don't want to do it or I'll have a little flat spot on the outside. And I'm just going to use my chasing hammer, which has a nice polished ball on it. Be sure you put your hallmark down. And we'll end up with a hammered pattern like this. Now once I get my hammered pattern in, I'm going to just go to the wood using the same hammer. Just lightly hammer the inside. And you'll end up with a slightly curved, slightly cupped piece. Now when I was hammering, I did hammer the edge all the way around so that even though I didn't sand that back, now you can tell it's just slightly rippled. And I will take my sandpaper at this point and just lightly touch the edge all the way around. And I'm leaving that slightly hammered part visible. I don't want to take that all away. I like the look. You can smooth it off completely if you wish. It's up to you. It's your personal taste. But be sure you sand this little point off up here. And at this point, we're just going to punch a hole for our ear wires. So I'm just going to eyeball that at about 2 millimeters. And then I'll put it over the top of my other one. And then punch through the original hole. And that way, both of my earrings have holes in the same spot. And now I'll do my French ear wires. You can do any ear wires you want. But for mine, 0.8 of a millimeter sterling round wire. Cut 2 of them. Check to make sure they're the same length. File the ends flat, both ends, and I just hold it in my fingers. And you can look at the end when you see a round piece of wire, you've got it flat. Then I take my flat round pliers that I have marked, and I just do a loop, center it down 45 degrees, put that on the other side, come up to the large part of your round tapered pliers, so you can see I'm right up here. Put a little kick on the end. Now sand that and polish it. So we just open this sideways, put the earring on. I wish those silly doves had quit. Make sure this touches. That's it. That's your earring. So this is the pair of earrings. Now you can either leave this the way it is or you can polish it. I'm going to tumble them for about 15 minutes just to make them a little more shiny.